Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into a really interesting topic today, inner strength. We'll be looking at this book, Inner Strength, Analogies for Spiritual Growth and Self-Improvement. And I'm really enjoying its approach. It's got all these really clever analogies. They take some pretty complex spiritual concepts and make them much easier to grasp, using everyday experiences as examples.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What I find so interesting about this is how it makes these ideas about self-improvement not just, understandable, but something you can actually put into practice in your life. Like, it's one thing to talk about, abstract principles, but it's a whole different ballgame. When you can see them playing out in your relationships and your work, even your finances, it's like suddenly everything clicks. You're like, oh, I can actually use this in my life.
It's like, it's not just this theory anymore. You can actually do something with it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going for with this deep dive today. So let's jump right into the first analogy, the company you keep. From today's Merle document, it emphasizes how negative people can just drain you, while positive influences can really lift you up. So is this just about like who you hang out with, or is there more to it?
Oh, there's definitely more to it. Think about it. You're pretty selective about who you spend time with in person, right? But then what about the information you're letting into your mind, the thoughts you're dwelling on? It really emphasizes surrounding yourself with truth and wisdom. It's kind of like being mindful of what you're feeding your mind, just like you choose healthy food for your body instead of junk food.
That's a good point. It's like making sure your mind and spirit have a good environment to thrive in. So it's not just about cutting ties with toxic people, but also being careful about what you're reading, what you're watching, even the kind of self-talk you engage in.
Exactly. And that's where the real work starts becoming aware of all these subtle influences and then actively making choices about what we allow into our mental and emotional space. It's a big shift in how we see things.
It really is. It makes you think, if we take this analogy a step further, beyond just people, what other types of company could be affecting us? Maybe our habits, our environment, even our beliefs. It's definitely something to think about. All right, let's move on to the next analogy in today's Merlian Turnet. Spiritual remembrance as a power source. This one uses the image of a phone staying charged while it's plugged in. What stood out to me was this idea of always staying connected even when things get really busy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to show that inner strength doesn't have to be something we struggle to create on our own. It's more like tapping into the source of energy that's always available, always ready to support us. Like that phone, as long as we're connected, we're good to go.
I love that. But in a world that's constantly demanding our attention, how do we actually manage to stay connected like that? Do we have to meditate for hours every day?
Not at all. While long stretches of meditation can be incredibly beneficial, the Merle document emphasizes that even small moments of silence and connection can make a huge difference. Picture this. You're swamped at work, feeling totally overwhelmed. Just taking a few seconds to close your eyes and reconnect with that inner sense of peace can be super helpful.
It's like hitting a reset button for your mind throughout the day. And that feels a lot more doable than trying to find hours for a silent retreat. Now, speaking of recharging, the third analogy ties in nicely with this whole staying connected idea. It's about self-purification through spiritual awareness. And it uses this concept of detoxing your body to boost your energy levels. I gotta say, this one really hit home for me.
It's such a clever comparison, right?
Yeah.
Just like we try to cleanse our bodies with healthy food, water, maybe even a detox program every now and then, the Merle document suggests that we can do the same for our minds and spirits. Practices like meditation or repeating positive affirmations can help us clear out negativity and create a sense of lightness and clarity.
So it's not just about bringing in the good stuff, it's also about actively getting rid of those mental and emotional toxins that are dragging us down.
Exactly. Think about it. If you're constantly overloading your body with toxins, it's going to affect your energy levels, your mood, everything. It's the same deal with our minds and spirits.
That makes perfect sense. I'm loving this idea of a spiritual cleanse, but I'm wondering, what does that actually look like in practice? Is it like a one-time thing or more of an ongoing process?
That's a great question. And I think the beauty of it is you can tailor it to your needs. It could be as simple as 5 minutes of quiet reflection in the morning, or a mindful walk in nature, or a dedicated meditation practice. The key is finding what works for you and making it part of your routine.
It's like establishing a mental hygiene routine, similar to how we brush our teeth and take care of our physical health. What are some of your go-to practices for handling negativity and finding that inner peace?
Well, for me, it's about finding those little moments of stillness throughout the day. Even just a few minutes of focusing on my breath or listening to some calming music helps me shift out of that reactive state and get back to a feeling of inner peace. But let's move on to the next analogy, shall we? This one from today's Merle document really struck a chord with me because it highlights the power of a focused mind. It compares it to being a smart investor, someone who's focused on the long game and doesn't get thrown off by all the little ups and downs of the market.
I see where you're going with that. It's about not getting caught up in the daily chaos and keeping our eyes on what really matters, whether it's our spiritual goals, personal goals, or even professional goals. It's like having this inner compass that keeps us on track even when everything around us feels crazy.
Exactly. And the Merle document goes on to emphasize how important it is to minimize distractions if we want to achieve those goals. I mean, it's so easy to get sidetracked with all the information overload, social media notifications, and just the constant demands on our time.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. It feels like we're living in the age of distraction, but the question is, how do we actually create that space for focus when there are so many things pulling us in different directions?
Well, one thing that's been really helpful for me is starting each day with a clear intention. I take a few minutes to review my goals and what's important to me. It's like setting my internal GPS before I even start my day.
I love that. It's like reminding yourself, okay, this is where I'm headed today, no matter what detours or roadblocks come up. Speaking of roadblocks, the next analogy from today's Merle document tackles the whole idea of overcoming obstacles. And the imagery it uses is so powerful. It talks about a river carving its way through solid rock.
It is, isn't it? No matter how hard or unyielding that rock might seem, the river's constant flow eventually wears it down. It's such a beautiful metaphor for how we can deal with challenges in our lives. The Merle document suggests that by consistently staying connected to truth, to that inner source of strength, we can overcome anything that comes our way.
It's not about brute forcing it. It's about consistency and unwavering effort. And I like how you put it, it's about connection, not just willpower. It's about tapping into something greater than ourselves to fuel our perseverance. But it also got me thinking, sometimes those rocks in our lives are there for a reason. Maybe they're there to redirect us, to teach us something valuable.
That's such a great point. It's about reframing those obstacles as opportunities for growth. Maybe they're not blocking us, but guiding us towards a different path, one that actually leads us closer to our true purpose.
I love that shift in perspective. Okay, changing gears a bit, the next analogy from today's Merle document is all about integrity, about how true strength comes from inner purity. And the comparison it uses is so striking. It talks about an honest businessman that builds trust over time and ultimately achieves lasting success.
It's such a powerful analogy, and what I find so compelling is that it shows how integrity isn't just about these huge ethical dilemmas. It's about being truthful and authentic in every aspect of our lives, even the little everyday interactions. It's about making sure our actions match our values.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And I can see how that leads to this incredible sense of inner strength and stability, because when you know you're living in alignment with your true self, it creates this unshakable foundation. You're not easily swayed by external pressures or opinions because you're grounded in your own integrity.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes people genuinely respect and trust you, because they can sense when someone is truly genuine, when their words and actions are in sync. It's a powerful energy to embody.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, beyond the obvious ethical stuff, what other benefits might come from cultivating this inner purity? Does it affect our creativity, our decision-making, our overall well-being?
Those are great questions, and I think it would be fascinating to explore how aligning with our deepest values actually influences those different parts of our lives. Now, building on this idea of self-reflection and alignment, the next analogy from today's Merle document emphasizes the power of silence and introspection. And it does this by contrasting thoughtful decision-making with those impulsive knee-jerk reactions we sometimes have.
Oh yeah, the difference between reacting and responding, reminds me of that saying, don't react, respond. It's about giving ourselves that space to pause, to process our emotions and thoughts before we do anything.
Exactly. And what the Merle document suggests is that these moments of quiet reflection can be incredibly transformative. It's about shifting out of that reactive mode and tapping into a deeper well of wisdom and clarity.
It's like creating that space for our inner voice to be heard, the voice that's often drowned out by all the noise of the world around us.
It's about reaching that deeper level of awareness, where we can make choices that are truly in our best interest instead of just reacting to whatever's thrown at us.
And I think that's where the real power lies, right? In that space between something happening and us reacting to it. When we can learn to pause in that space, We gain so much more control over our lives. We become more intentional, more mindful. But how do we actually work those moments of silence and reflection into our everyday lives? Especially when it feels like we're constantly bombarded with information and things we have to do.
It's about being proactive instead of reactive. So maybe set aside a specific time each day for meditation or journaling, or it could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths before answering a tough email or having a difficult conversation. The important thing is to find what works for you and to make it a regular habit.
It's like building in these tiny moments of mindfulness throughout the day, these little pockets of peace where we can reconnect with ourselves and tap into that inner stillness. And you know that brings us to the last analogy from today's Merle document. This one really struck a chord with me because it talks about how inner transformation shows up as outer success. And it uses this beautiful image of a sculptor carefully chipping away at a block of stone to reveal a stunning statue.
It's such a powerful metaphor for the process of self-improvement. The Merle document suggests that by constantly working on ourselves, by letting go of bad habits and those limiting beliefs, we can actually uncover our true potential. That inner brilliance that's often hidden under layers of self-doubt, fear, or all the conditioning we've picked up along the way.
It's like we all have this amazing potential inside us, this masterpiece just waiting to be revealed. But it takes conscious effort, that willingness to chip away at the things that are holding us back so we can refine and polish our inner selves.
Absolutely. And it's not about trying to reach some impossible ideal of perfection. It's about embracing the journey of discovering and growing ourselves, realizing that we're all works in progress.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves, not for anyone else's approval, but for our own growth and fulfillment. And you know what? That's what I find so inspiring about these analogies. They remind us that this journey of inner growth isn't just some abstract idea. It's something we can actively participate in, something we can shape and mold through the choices we make and the things we do every single day.
I completely agree. And by understanding these principles and actually putting them into practice, we can not only transform our own lives, but also inspire and uplift the people around us. Because as we cultivate our own inner strength, we become like beacons of light, radiating positivity and resilience out into the world.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today, exploring some really powerful analogies that offer new perspectives on inner strength, spiritual growth, and self-improvement. I'm feeling incredibly inspired to take these insights and start applying them to my own life.
Me too. And I encourage our listeners to do the same. Take some time to think about these analogies. Which one resonated with you the most? What new insights or perspectives did it give you? And how can you start using its wisdom in your daily life starting today?
Those are some great questions to consider. And on that note, we'll leave you to explore those ideas further. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light.